The soft beep of the monitor beside my bed was the only sound that broke the sterile silence of the hospital room. My parents were asleep in the chairs next to me, a picture of exhaustion captured under the dim overhead light. I had been in the hospital for weeks now, fighting the relentless enemy within me, cancer. Though the chemo had made me weak, I had grown accustomed to the rhythm of the hospital, the constant interruptions and endless tests. I was half awake, suspended in a state somewhere between hazy consciousness and dreams, when the door creaked open. A tall, elderly man entered, his steps almost ghostly as he approached my bed. His kindly face was lined with age, but his eyes held an uncanny, almost unsettling glimmer of purpose. "Good evening," he whispered, his voice soft and soothing. "I'm a phlebotomist, and I'm here to draw some blood for analysis." I nodded, too tired to question the odd timing. As he set down his equipment, I noticed something peculiar. The sharps container and bag he carried were labeled with the name, the Bloodhound. "Why does it say the Bloodhound on your things?" I asked, my voice barely more than a murmur. He smiled, a twinkle of pride in his eyes. "They call me that because I'm the best in the hospital at taking people's blood without causing them any pain." I sighed. "Well, that's good to hear. Shall we?" I nodded. True to his word, the procedure was almost imperceptible. I barely felt the prick of the needle, and he worked with such deftness that I was over before I had time to even flinch. I thanked him, genuinely amazed. It didn't hurt at all. "Rest well, child," he said, patting my arm gently before gathering his things and slipping out as quietly as he had come. I drifted back to sleep, my last thought a hazy recollection of the kind man with the gentle hands. When morning broke, it was as though the night visit had been but a fleeting dream. That is, until a nurse entered, her cheerful demeanor a sharp contrast to my foggy confusion. "Good morning," she said brightly. "It's time to take your blood." I blinked at her, disoriented. "But didn't the Bloodhound already do that?" The nurse smile faltered, replaced by a puzzled frown. "The Bloodhound? There's no one by that name here." I stared at her, my mind racing. Had I imagined the entire encounter? But the gauze on my arm, secured with red tape, was undeniable proof that something had transpired. Nonetheless, a nurse proceeded to draw my blood, her technique more clinical and less magical than the elderly man's. The rest of the day passed in a blur, my confusion mingling with the ever-present fatigue that weighed my every thought. I could not shake the sense of bewilderment that wrapped around me like a shroud. If he wasn't real, then why did I have gauze as proof? Later that evening, after my parents had fallen asleep again, I found myself staring at the door, half expecting the elderly man to return. But the room remained untouched by his calming presence. Was he a figment of my imagination, a hallucination brought on by the stress and fear that gnawed at me? Or was he something else entirely? A guardian spirit, perhaps a vampire, a phantom healer, the government? The answer eludes me to this day, leaving me with the mystery as impenetrable as the dark corridors of his hospital. Yet his visit, whether real or spectral, it comforted me in an inexplicable way. And that comfort, however briefly felt, it was everything to me that night.